U.S. government continues to escalate tensions with China, and that should be, frankly, very scary and troublesome to all of us. I'll link this article in the description box. Amid escalating tensions, U.S. warships sail just miles off coast of China. The moves are believed by experts to be information-gathering operations attempting to track the position of Chinese submarines and pinpoint coastal defenses as the U.S. increase the tensions with Beijing. By Alan McLeod, Mint Press News. U.S. warship and military aircraft were spotted traveling southwest from Japan towards China yesterday afternoon, and with what some fear is a growing escalation, I think, yeah, that's only logical conclusion, is growing escalation of aggression towards Beijing. A Boeing P-8A Poseidon, an anti-submarine aircraft, appeared to be working in conjunction with the anti-submarine destroyer, the USS Rafael Peralta, patrolling as close as 41 nautical miles from China's maritime boundary, almost in sight of the city of Shanghai. So think about this. If China had sent one of their anti-submarine destroyers 41 miles, let's say, off the coast of Los Angeles, New York, Seattle, whatever, we would rightly be freaking out, as that is a huge sign of aggression, coming that close to somebody's, borders, to their land, almost being able to see them. That is a huge act of aggression, a huge escalation. And it's, again, the U.S. doing this, not China. Earlier in the day, Air Force Northrop Grumman E-8C reconnaissance plane and a Navy Lockheed Martin EP-3E reconnaissance aircraft surveyed China's Fujianese coast, the later coming within 58 nautical miles of its boundaries before turning back. Today, the EP-3E was back, this time going west, following the coastlines of China's most populous province, Guangdong. The move are believed by Chinese experts to be information-gathering operations attempting to track the position of Chinese submarines and to pinpoint Chinese coastal defenses. The United States increases the tensions of Beijing. U.S. is conducting extensive war games with Japan, Australia, and Philippine Sea. Those war games do not appear to be part of this. Defense Secretary Esper, check this out, recently accused some really Orwellian stuff right here, accused the People's Liberation Army as, quote, continuing its aggressive behavior in the East and South China Sea. Really? China's the one that's being the aggressor here, when the U.S., these anti-aircraft, destroyers, anti-aircraft submarines, aircraft are literally 30 to 40 nautical miles off the coast of China. And they're the ones being the aggressor? I mean, Jesus Christ. Deter against coercive. I mean, goddamn, it's some dystopian shit when we have the military and the State Department just saying just absolute fucking nonsense. And fortunately, a lot of the people eat up this imperialist narrative that China is somehow the aggressor, when we're over there, close to their borders, mucking shit up, being the aggressor. We don't have, again, the Chinese military 30 to 40 miles off the coast of New York, Los Angeles, wherever, Florida, wherever you want to name that has a coast. They're not the ones doing that. It's the U.S. We need to call out imperialism wherever it happens, including China, Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, Iran, etc. The U.S. is beginning to sever diplomatic relations with China. Last week, the Trump administration ordered the Chinese consulate in Houston to close, claiming it was a hub of spying activity. Diplomats and embassy staff were jeered and heckled as they left for the final time. The Guardian reported that American officials forced entry into the building, potentially that it would be a breach of serious international law. In retaliation, China ordered an American consulate in Chengdu to close. So again, China is just responding to what the U.S. does. The U.S. is the aggressor. China has to obviously do something in that situation. Going further, I mean, look at this shit, dude. Florida Senator, next they're going to be calling for for throwing, people of Chinese descent, people from China in fucking internment camps. Look at this. Going further, Florida Senator Rick Scott recently claimed every Chinese citizen in the U.S. is a communist spy, arguing that foreign students should be treated with extreme suspicion. I mean, it's just fucking disgusting. Hugely racist, hugely disgusting. American policymakers increasingly see China as a threat to U.S. hegemony. In 2001, the Obama administration announced its so-called pivot to Asia, an attempt to encircle China with military bases and an attempt to crush it. This has been continued by Trump, who has consistently portrayed China as a U.S. enemy. China is not the enemy. You know who is the enemy of the people in the United States? It's the capitalist owner class. It's those in power who give nothing, who could care too less, like DNC not supporting Medicare for all, Trump's horrible response to the pandemic, the brutal repression of the Black Lives Matter movement, both by local police and, Trump's federal stormtroopers, not getting, rent mortgage cancellations during this, not getting a UBI. That's the real threat to the U.S., not China, not Russia, not anybody else. I mean, goddamn. The Pentagon's 2021 budget calls for a move away from the Middle East and a focus on Asia as America's priority theater. The government is also attempting to shift both domestic and international blame for COVID on it. Again, Trump's trying to do whatever he can to shift the blame to whatever he thinks will stick, because his handling of the pandemic has been abysmal and hugely problematic from the start. Calling it the Wuhan China virus, leaving the WHO. While there's been Twitter deleting over 170,000 accounts sympathetic to China. Pompeo saying maybe it's something getting rid of TikTok. Negative media coverage appears to have had a profound effect on public opinion. Again, people got to be really careful where they're getting their news sources from, because, again, in actuality, it's the United States being the aggressor here. You're going to be pissed off at anybody, be pissed off at the U.S. government, their imperialist foreign policy towards China, and, the rest of the global South who isn't willing to do the bidding of the, U.S. empire. Just 9 years ago, America's views on China were strongly favorable, but a recent poll conducted by the Pew Research Center found that record 66% of the country now hold negative opinions about the country, only a quarter continuing to hold China in high regard. And again, it's all this disinformation, propaganda, imperialist fucking bullshit that's parroted, basically word for word by the corporate media. Whatever comes out of the State Department, the military-industrial complex, they just run with it, just like, local papers do with propaganda. So it's not surprising, but again, people need to be a little smarter, a little more discerning where they get their news from, and if they choose to get it from mainstream sources, make sure you're actually, filtering it through some critical thought and reasoning, like why are they telling us this? Why do they want us to hate China? It's important. And super good point, like I was making, just seeing on Twitter. Can you imagine the absolute freak out that would take place if the Chinese military is operating this close to New York off the U.S. coast? The U.S. engages in these dangerous provocations against China on a weekly basis, but as China is always painted as the aggressor. Exactly. While the activities of the U.S. military are noteworthy and potentially inflammatory, they're not unique. Indeed, only last month it launched a similar operation off the coast of Venezuela. Again, we need to call out imperialism wherever it's happening. Venezuela, Cuba, in this case, China, Syria, Iran, etc., Nicaragua. Describing it as freedom of navigation. I mean, goddamn, dude. We need to blow up the whole fucking military-industrial complex. Get rid of all their fucking funding. Use that for programs of social uplift, both here in the U.S. and abroad. I mean, plenty of money for war. We don't have Medicare for all. We don't have tuition-free college. We don't have paid paternity and maternity leave. We work way more than any other country, but yeah, bombs, death, destruction, sending these ships all across the world to terrorize these countries, these people, these communities. Yep, we got unlimited amount of money from that, and both parties support it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. 2016, former senior Trump advisor Steve Bannon said, "We're going to the war in the South China Sea in 5 to 10 years. There's no doubt about that." That would basically set off a fucking world war, you fucking lunatic. Well, anti-war activists everywhere will hope otherwise. Recent events suggest he may have been onto something. Not good. Not good. Solidarity with all of the people all around the world in the global south facing the the imperial threat and might of the U.S. empire. All power to the people. Peace. Much love.